and welcome to the Today Show on SHOW Halton, your TV, the disability channel on the Today Show. Today we have a really special guest, really cool. He's a writer, he's the cue card supervisor for SNL, Late Night with Seth Meyers, owner of Cue Cards by Wally. You may have seen his episodes with Weirderville, and of course, Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. Please stay tuned for Wally Feresten. Wally, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me so much. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate your time. I want to dive into this. I think this is so cool. You have your own company, right? Cue
Yes.
Card by Wally, which is one of them. You actually have another one, NC Cue Cards as well. But walk us through Cue Cards by Wally.
Well, when the pandemic hit in 2020 and I wasn't able to do my job, cue cards for Saturday Night Live, as you said, and Late Night with Seth Meyers, and I was sitting around, I had a lot of cue cards and nothing to write on them. I thought I had this business idea before, doing personalized cue cards for people. And my wife, who is in business and likes to start little companies, said, now's the time to do that business when people can't go to weddings and birthdays and things like that, and they need an original gift. So we launched, and I did a couple podcasts, and then I did a local news thing, and then the Today Show picked it up, and then all of a sudden I was in business and busier than I'd ever been doing anything before. Um, but it's been great. It's been a really cool thing doing personalized cue cards for people, and the joy it brought people to give an original gift for fans of Late Night and fans of Saturday Night Live was something I hadn't even dreamed of, and I was like, how could people really want these? Because it's just really marker on a plain white card, but people flipped out over it and they were really happy, and it made me happy to bring joy to people during this pandemic that was going on.
It's not just marker on a card, Wally. I mean,
Well, yeah,
yes, it is, but
yeah, yeah,
it's such a unique peak. I'm gonna say with history, right?
yeah.
I mean, not every show uses cue cards. Not everyone has been doing it for, I believe, 20 plus years, if I'm not mistaken.
32.
32 years.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a really cool business to say, here is
yeah.
something so cool and unique, especially from yourself. Now, in your business, what is the weirdest request you've gotten so far?
Yeah, I've had to turn down. Well, I can't do anything copyrighted, so I have to turn those people down and have them come up with something else. I've had a couple that were not very nice, and I was like, no, I can't really do that, because I don't want my cue cards used for evil. I want them used for good. Um, but weird wise, um, just like little things that were like from a brother to a sister, happy birthday, you stink, for love your brother kind of thing, that I thought was cute and funny and not too mean, so I won't do anything mean, but something like that I thought was really funny.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Now, in your opinion, is there a style of writing that is best for cue cards? Is it, block writing? Sometimes we look at sans serif or different types of script. In your expert opinion,
Yeah.
what's the best way to do this?
Yeah, well, when I bring on a new employee, we just started training somebody this week. Actually, I had somebody leave. Um, it's all block lettering, and there's a style to it. And we tell people it's not like writing. It's not writing. It's printing. It's almost like drawing because the pens are pretty thick. Here, I got a couple pens right here. I can show you. We use these Pilot pens. Shout out to Pilot because they're my favorite. But and they're big. You can see how thick they are. So you're kind of moving your hand, whereas when you're writing, you're moving your fingers more. So you're moving your hand. So you're drawing the letters, and it's just, yeah, block drawing, and we have different ways of writing each one, and we train people the same way so that I could have 7 different people print one sketch, and to the naked eye or to the non cue card eye, the printing all looks the same. Now I can tell the differences, but to the actor, they won't be able to tell the difference, and it looks seamless.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Now,
it's pretty good.
what's the biggest thing to remember when you're creating these cue cards? Is it, we're always going to make mistakes. There's spelling, there's grammar, but is
Yeah.
there a color outside of block writing? Is there a color that looks best? What's the Wally way of doing it?
Well, when we're working on SNL, the host is always in the color black, because you can see that the best, and they're usually not used to reading cue cards, and they'll be the only one in black. So we have different, and all the cast have their own colors per se. If there's 5 cast members in a sketch, then we can use all 5 colors. We use black, blue, green, red, and brown. If there's more than 5, which a lot of the time is the case, we have to double up on the colors, and then we'll put their names in front of the lines so there's no confusion on which blue is reading who. So it's all very organized and stuff like that. But it's the color is so using the colors and the spacing on the cards is really the most important part to reading the cards, making them neat and legible.
So what do you mean by spacing? I mean, your style of writing, I know mine.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
I create something that is universal for everybody to understand, I
It's
guess?
it's the spacing between the letters and the spacing between the words themselves. Here, I have a cue card here, and I guess I was gonna show you this later, but I printed up a couple this morning before I came on. Where am I gonna see
Oh my
that?
God.
So we have live from the Disability Channel. It's Christopher Powers. Now, you see the spacing between the letters, and then the spacing between the words, and then the spacing between the lines, so it's legible. Now, that's the one I would normally print, but I did print up a backup because I like to tell the truth a lot. So I wrote taped and not live from the Disability Channel. It's Christopher Powers. So I'm going to send you those both as a gift from me. But
Oh my
as an
God, that's
example of
amazing.
as an example of spacing, that's and I did sign them too. That makes them a little bit more valuable, Chris, if you want to sell those on eBay at some point.
No, I'm not selling those at all. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
And that's an example of my cue cards by Wally too, where I would print up something like that for a gift for somebody.
so I noticed that you have the underlines.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why is that important?
Um, we underline for different reasons at Saturday Night Live. We underline for emphasis. So if we want them to yell that or really hit it, we'll underline it. If the host and another character who's in green are staying the line at the same time, then we'll write it in one color and underline it. So the person in green knows they're staying those lines as well. For my company, when I started doing these, I liked the way it looked with the different underlined color. It made the letters pop out a little bit and made it look kind of cool. So when I was sitting at home and I was like, yeah, I think when I just had the black on there, it didn't look as good. And I was like, let me underline these. And I think it makes it look, I think it makes a letter pop on the green, on the white there. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So a question for you: Why white? Like it seems to be that we have a nice heavy card stock that we can hold and manipulate. Why not
Yeah.
yellow or red or green?
I've never tried that. I've never even thought, I think white shows the other colors the best. I think maybe those colors might be more expensive, like to get stock of those colors. And I think that if I had red, say, that would eliminate red from me being able to use red, and so I mean, when I started working 32 years ago, this is how it was done. This is how I was trained. It was white, and we've made some changes, since then. But always been white. I think it just shows the colors show up better on the white.
Okay. And when someone makes a mistake in 32 plus years, I'm sure you know the alphabet inside and out, along with the
Yeah.
dictionary there. What happens when you're writing something and you're like, oh no? And do you have to start all over again? Do you do a new card? Like, what's that process?
No, we have white tape. Let me see if I get some. We have like rolls of white artist tape, 2-inch white artist tape, and we'll just tape over the line or tape over the word, and we can write right on the tape, and it looks seamless. Like you can't really tell we made a mistake there. That's what we do on the shows, especially Saturday Night Live, when we're making changes last minute. Instead of throwing away a whole card, you just change the line. You can tape over it real quick, write it on there, or just not tape it, and you're all set.
That's amazing. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Great.
about inclusion and really giving everyone a fair say.
Welcome to the Today Show. This is our flagship show. I am Unstoppable Tracy.
I am Zach Damon.
It is a pleasure to be here. I am excited. What is up?
We have a great show today.
Jay Stoyan here for the Disability Channel, the world's only inclusive channel for and by persons with disabilities.
Get ready to be inspired, everyone.
We have people watching from all over the world, but also all over Ontario.
We also take a concerted attention in the veterans community.
In moments of stress and trauma, we can get a hold of ourselves.
To help make a difference for people with disabilities, to show people how to love themselves or their disability.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me, giving this platform for myself and other people with disabilities.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this episode of the Disability Channel Detroit. Please tune in next time.
Welcome back to the Today Show on the Disability Channel. Our guest is Wally Feresten from Cue Cards by Wally. Wally, you had mentioned that you just hired on somebody, and I was going to ask you this later, but I'm going to ask you this now. Back in, correct me if I'm wrong, 1980, when the story goes, your brother called you and said there was an opening at the Cue Card department, and he wasn't going to recommend you for the job. He was just kind of telling you to annoy you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 1990. I'm not that old, but that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, he at the time was working at the show. He was working his way up as a writer. He was a receptionist, and then he was an intern, and then a receptionist, and so he knew a lot of the people there. And he was just starting to work on the Late Night with David Letterman show, and yeah, he called me and said, "There's an opening in the Cue Card department," and I was like, did you recommend me? That's great." And he was like, "No." He's like, "I know you have terrible handwriting." And I was like, "What are you talking?" He goes, let them tell me that, not you. You're not that hard. He's like, "All right, if you want to try it." So I went in there and I wrote up some cards, and they said they'd seen worse, which I think was being very, very polite. But I think because they knew my brother, they gave me a shot at it. And 32 years later, I'm still here. But my handwriting was really bad. That's I think the most ironic thing of my whole career was I had great grades in elementary school, middle school, high school, but every single report card I got said worst handwriting we've ever seen. And now I make my living with my handwriting. So it's kind of crazy.
When you hired on this new person that you're training,
yeah,
what's that interview process look like for your department?
I'm always, it's usually we find people through friends of somebody already working there, or a friend of mine, like my son, who has a lot of friends. He's at college. He's looking to get into the business, but he's got friends from high school that have graduated and are in the city, New York City now, and looking for work. And I know them. The thing that I look for first is a good personality, because it's long hours sitting behind the scenes, writing. You're right on top of people now, and you want somebody that's going to get along with everybody. Someone with a good attitude. That's the first thing, and then we just bring them in, and then we just have them print cue cards and see what their handwriting's like. And then if it's decent after a day or two, then we'll progress them further up the thing. But it's personality and penmanship. Those are the two things I really look for.
Okay. Yeah, if you're working those 12, 18 hours, the last thing you want is, I got to go to work with you.
Exactly. And, I've working at Late Night with Seth Meyers for the last 8 years, they've done such a great job of hiring people that are nice to each other, and keeping that attitude from the top down, Mike Shoemaker and Seth Meyers, of being nice to every single person that works on that show, and respecting everybody that works in that show. And it really shows, I think, through the show that they do. And it's just a cool thing to follow, that I like to do as well. It's just like, I want nice people working for me, because this entertainment business is hard enough as it is. and let's have nice people working there, and it'll be hopefully we can make it a little bit better and fun at work.
Well, it's that old saying: if you like your job and like the people you work with, you never work a day in your life. And
That's
32
right.
years later,
That's right. That's right. Yep. I can't believe I've been in that same building 32 years. It's crazy.
that's
It's
amazing.
crazy.
Now,
Yeah.
actually, in some of the episodes with SNL and your Instagram, along with Seth Meyers, they cut to you and you have the N95 mask on. COVID, we get it, but there's
Yeah.
something taped, glued, or stuck to the side of your mask.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the famous yellow sponge?
Oh, the sponge. Yeah. My wife was trying to figure a way to market that to people, but I was like, no one's going to want to buy a little sponge to stick on their face, honey. It's always the business person in there. Yeah. So when I started 32 years ago, in pulling cards, when you're pulling cards, sometimes it's hard to grasp. It's hard to get them. Like it's hard to get your finger in there. So I would lick my finger to get a better grip on the card, to get in between them and pull them real good. So I would do this, I would do that, And the guy that trained me, Tony Mendez, said that's a bad habit to get into. And I was like, it's too late. It's too late. I have to do it. So 30 years later, when COVID came in, and I was like, oh no, I can't lick my finger anymore. I've got a mask on and a face shield. There's no way I could do this. It's like, what am I going to do? And I was like, okay, what can I get? What, a sponge, little sponge. So I went to the props guy, Jimmy Riley, and I was like, Jimmy, I need to get a sponge. Can you first? So we had the mask and then the face shield. So the first iteration of it was glue the sponge onto the face shield. And that's what we did. And that worked. Included it kind of near where my mouth is. People laughed. People made fun of me. The host would come in each week and he's like, "What's that for? Why do you have a sponge on your face mask?" And I'd have to explain the whole thing. And they were like, "Oh, that's actually pretty smart." And then when the face shields went away last year, I was like, "Okay, what am I going to do now? Because I have the mask." And Jimmy Riley again, props guy, came up. He put a paperclip through the sponge, and I put the mask straps through this paperclip in the sponge, and it attaches there. And it just helps me get a grip on the card. I don't panic, and I can do my job effectively. But it does look funny and weird. And Seth Meyers has a love-hate relationship with it, but it's all in good fun.
Now, back in the 90s, you correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of got to start writing on a show, Wienerville. You also wrote for
Yes.
Celebrity Deathmatch as well, which was this
Yep.
claymation before its time.
Yeah.
What happened to Wienerville?
Wienerville, it's funny you should ask. I just got an email from somebody. They're doing a 30, it's got to be like the 30th reunion or I think maybe a 30th reunion of it. And they're going to do a Zoom reunion that I was asked to participate in. So that was just a show. I went to school. I took the cue card job 32 years ago to get my foot in the door. I wanted to be a writer. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write comedy, wanted to start in TV and then go to movies. It's always been my dream to do that. So when I got the job at Cue Cards, I wanted to make connections, and I did. And I started writing for Wienerville and Celebrity Deathmatch, and I wrote that one episode of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And I wrote for Weekend Update. That was when I started. Really, I started writing jokes for Norm Macdonald and Weekend Update, and then that allowed me to write for other things. When people saw that I could get jokes on Saturday Night Live, they trusted that I could write other things. So, yeah, it was just a cool thing to do. But it was always $500 here, $800 here. It was never enough to support myself. So that stuff was fun and everything, but Cue Cards was where I was making my money, and then I got better at it, and then I started my company, and then I kind of never looked back from there. But the writing is always still in me. I have a book from my 32 years of doing Cue Cards in me that I'm waiting to do, because I have to wait till I stop working on SNL or it goes off the air before I can really write that. But it's in my head. Some of it's on paper already, and that'll probably be my next project after a little while.
Well, when that book comes out, let us know, because one, I'd love a copy of it, but certainly love to talk to you about it. When you talk about writing, you can see the passion in your face and stuff.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see. You're working on these two iconic shows. Is there any, Wally Feresten going to be doing a movie or a TV show? Are you going to get back to 100% writing outside of the novel that you're creating?
Probably not writing that kinds of stuff. I am looking into doing some more acting, which has been more recent in my thing. So you might be seeing me in some commercials down the road. I'll just tease that. Maybe even playing in Canada. You never know. But yeah, I'm looking more on the acting thing. Just being, 57 and getting up there, and the drive to do too much is not there anymore. The work is keeping me busy. Working like starting next week, I'll work Seth Meyers Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Saturday Night Live Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So 6 days a week for the next 3 weeks, and long hours for when SNL's in session. That keeps me busy enough, So the creative stuff I get to do on Seth is keeping me busy for right now.
All right. Well, when that book comes out, and if you are playing up
Yeah.
in Canada, make sure you send me a message. I'd love to.
For
meet up
sure.
with you. We are going to
For
take
sure.
a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Sure.
Hi there, Wendell Clark. You're watching the Disability Channel, showcasing their abilities. All the best.
Welcome back to the Today Show. Again, our fabulous guest, Wally Feresten, Cue Cards by Wally. Check him out. He has a book that's going to be coming out eventually. Canada. I want to ask you a couple of personal questions. What is something about you that people tend to misunderstand the most?
That I don't write the comedy on Saturday Night Live or Late Night with Seth Meyers. You'll have some people come up, or they, if you're meeting somebody new and they learn your work for Saturday Night Live, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't think that show's funny anymore." And I was like, "Okay, that's great. That's your opinion. I don't write any of the comedy. I just write the jokes on cards and I hold them up. Doesn't have to." But the funny thing is, usually when people say that to me, they're like, "Yeah, I don't think the show's funny anymore. Can you get me tickets to the show? I'd love to go sometime." But you just said. So yeah, I think that's the miscommon thing. Like, I don't write any of this stuff. I write the jokes on the cards and I hold them up. You can hate it, you can love it. That's great. I'm just a part of it. I'm just a part of the show.
Now, when people say to you, community, what's like, if you had to describe community with your family or work or whatever the case may be, what would that sound like from you?
Oh, community of like working on Saturday Night Live, you mean?
Well, just if someone said, "Hey, Wally, define community for me," what would Wally say is the definition of community?
Oh man, I think working on a show like SNL feels like it is a community. I think we have like 250 to 300 people working on that show. That's a community of everybody working together, knowing their place, knowing their job, doing their job well, and the show/community is successful. So I think everybody pitching in together, helping each other out when needed, giving suggestions where needed, probably is the showing success. So community pitching in, helping each other out, and that's what I think of when I see that.
And it's beautiful. I love that. A lot of people, we don't have that anymore, right? How can I help you?
Yeah.
Well, what's in it for me?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
When we look at motivation, which ties into your comment there of the community, if you had to give a piece of motivation to anybody trying to get into the industry, facing the never-ending rejection and the never wondering why, what would you tell them for motivation?
Yeah, again, I will pass on the message that Seth talks and tells people, and I feel exactly the same way. Be nice. Be nice to people. Work hard and be nice. Because if you're going up against someone else and they're not so nice, they're going to hire the nice person. Just be nice, help people out, do kind things, and eventually you'll get to where you want to go if you work hard, if you're working hard enough on it. If you're a nice person, you'll get noticed and you'll get hired somewhere. That you have to be exponentially talented if you're a jerk to get hired on a show. You're gonna be, and there's jerks in the show business. So there's very talented jerks in show business, but you're gonna be really, really talented to get hired if you're a jerk. So just be nice, and you'll find your way.
Beautiful. Now I do have time for one more question for you.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I'm going to get to that question in a second. Where can people find you on social media? Where can they find you on Instagram?
Well, on Instagram, you can go to Cue Cards by Wally, or you can. That's my one, and Wally. I think Wally Feresten is my personal. And then on Twitter, I'm at Cue Card Wally. And also, you can go to cuecardsbywally.com if you want to order a card or get some information. Go to the website.
So Instagram, Cue Cards by Wally, cuecardsbywally.com. I encourage everyone to go, of course. So my last question for you, Wally, it's a staple to our show here.
Yeah.
What makes Wally Feresten smile?
That's when Seth tells a joke that the audience doesn't laugh at, that makes me laugh really hard. But it seems mean, but it's not. It's just, you just in comedy, you never know what's gonna make people laugh. And he'll tell jokes that make me laugh all the time. But when he tells a joke that I think is funny or he thinks is funny that doesn't work and the audience doesn't laugh, it makes me laugh really hard for some reason. But no, just helping people out, doing nice things for people. That makes me smile. That makes me happy. And I help a lot of young people. Like I said, my kids are trying to get into the business, and I help a lot of their friends and friends of their friends. I have loved talking to kids and giving them advice and what to do and how to get into business. So that really makes me happy, passing that goodness on. And I tell them, listen, when you get into a point of power in your job, and a kid is reaching out to you, or reach out to kids and help them out, pass it forward. That really makes me happy.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
That's the time that we have for our show. Thank you for tuning in. Everyone, Wally Feresten, writer from Celebrity Deathmatch, Wienerville, Space Goes Coast to Coast, and I believe the banjo episode was the one that you wrote for those guys.
That's correct. That is correct.
Show my age to you there. A book and novel in the works, hopefully to come out. Probably going to see him in acting, commercials, maybe up in Canada. We'll find out. Check him out on Wally Feresten, cuecardsbywally.com, at Instagram, cuecardsbywally. Thank you very much for joining us today, Wally. Have a fantastic day, everybody, and smile to inspire.
Thanks very much.